There is a scene in almost every disaster movie that nobody talks about. The city is burning, the hero is fighting, and in the background, always without fail, there is a crowd, watching, gasping, holding each other. Some of them are crying. None of them are helping. The crowd in fiction exists for one purpose: to make the stakes feel real. They are their audience inside the story. They witness, they react. They represent everyone who cares but cannot act. Fiction has always understood something about humans that humans have never quite admitted about themselves. Watching feels like participating. It doesn't, but it feels like it does. Every few months, the internet discovers a new country to care about. Something happens. It's terrible. People die. And within hours, the internet develops a flag problem. Profile pictures change. Bios update. Filters appear. Blue and yellow. Green, white, and red. Black, white, and red. The colors shift depending on the week. The behavior never does. I find this fascinating. Not the crisis, the crowd. I first noticed it in 2015. The Paris terrorist attacks. Real. Horrific. People dead in the streets from being shot. Facebook rolled out a French flag filter. Hundreds of millions used it. The streets of Paris were still being processed. And simultaneously, someone in Ohio had a tricolor over their face, having never visited France, knowing no one there, with no capacity to change anything that had just happened. France didn't need to know that Ohio was sad. France was already sad, and France knew. So who was the flag for? Here's where fiction becomes useful as a mirror. Think about the citizens of Panem in the Hunger Games. They watch the children be selected for slaughter every year. Most of them do nothing. Some of them cheer, because cheering signals loyalty to the capital and keeps them safe. Some of them cry, because crying signals that they are good people who feel bad about this. Neither group stops the Hunger Games. Susan Collins wrote it as a dystopian fiction, and it reads increasingly like a documentary. 2022, Ukraine, a genuine war, and the blue and yellow flag became briefly the most displayed symbol on earth. Politicians held it, celebrities posted it, corporate logos adopted it. A man in Manchester changed his profile picture, wrote, "I stand with Ukraine," and then went into his kitchen and made a sandwich. The flag did not stop a tank or a missile. Some people did real things though. They donated, housed refugees, drove trucks to the borders. Those people mostly didn't post about it, and the ones posting mostly didn't do those things. And we started blurring the distinction between the two. Iran, 2022. Women dying in the streets for the right to exist as they chose. Hashtag Masa Amini, trending globally. People wrote woman, life, freedom in their bios, in English, on platforms largely blocked in Iran. The women in Tehran were not refreshing Instagram to see if someone in Stockholm had updated their bio. And then Palestine. The watermelon emoji became a symbol. Celebrities posted it, deleted, and then reposted. Brands issued statements, retracted them, and then clarified their retractions. Meanwhile, people in Gaza were trying to find water. And then in 2026, Venezuela and Mexico, back to back. The feeds are flooded for ambiguous support, and suddenly everyone became an international political expert. Iran and Israel entering a direct military exchange, which trended for 4 days before something else arrived. 4 days for a potential regional war. And go back even further. Kony 2012. The campaign to stop a Ugandan warlord by making him famous to people with no mechanism to stop him. 100 million views, and Kony was not apprehended. Hashtag bring back our girls. World leaders held signs. Michelle Obama held a sign, and the girls were not brought back by signs. The pattern is not new. The broadcast is. And here is where the fiction comparison stops being decorative and starts being diagnostic. In Attack on Titan, there is a concept called the Eldian Restorationists. People who believe deeply in a cause, meet in secret, feel the moral weight of history, and accomplish almost nothing because belief without power is just a feeling. The show is not kind about this. It frames passionate conviction without actionable strategy as another form of self-comfort. Or consider Ned Stark, a man of profound honor. He did the right thing. He said the right things. He stood on principle loudly and publicly. It didn't save anyone, including him. Fiction keeps telling us the same thing. Moral positioning is not the same as moral action. The crowd that weeps is not the crowd that fights. And we keep watching those stories, nodding along, and then going home to update our bios. Why? Genuinely, why does this keep happening? Part of it is helplessness converted into expression. The gap between the feeling and the capacity to change anything is enormous. The flag closes that gap psychologically, even when it changes nothing practically. It lets you feel like you moved. But the less comfortable explanation is identity. The flag isn't about the country, it's about the person displaying it. A signal to your social network. I am the kind of person who cares about this. I am on the right side of history. The cause becomes a costume. Someone else's crisis becomes the material you use to describe yourself to people who already know you. That's not empathy. That's just self-description with extra steps. And causes don't get chosen randomly. They get chosen based on which ones are safe and support your specific social circle, which ones the algorithm is currently rewarding. The flag you pick says as much about your social positioning as it does about the crisis. Notice which tragedies trend and which ones don't. Sudan has been in civil war with mass atrocities for years and one of the worst displacement crises on earth. The filter was not developed. The floods in Pakistan in 2022 displaced 30 million people. 30 million. And there was nothing said. The flag follows the algorithm, not the suffering. There's a moment near the end of Avengers Infinity War, after the snap, where half the universe simply stops existing, and the surviving heroes just stand there, staring. The most powerful beings in the galaxy, and for a long moment, none of them could do anything. It's the most honest 30 seconds in the MCU, because that, the standing, the staring, the being present for something terrible without being able to fix it, is the actual human experience of most crises. The flag is our version of standing there. It's real grief, real helplessness, dressed in the only costume the platform provides. The problem isn't the feeling. The problem is when the costume replaces the response. When posting feels like contributing so completely that contributing doesn't happen. When the flag becomes the end of the engagement rather than the beginning. Nobody is clean here, and that includes people making YouTube videos about it. The crisis doesn't end when the flags disappear. The people inside them are still there. It's just that the crowd found something new to watch. In every disaster movie, the crowd eventually disperses and moves on. The hero either saves everyone or didn't. The city is either still standing or it isn't. And the crowd goes home. They were never going to save anyone. That was never what they were there for. They were there to feel like they witnessed something that mattered. And the question is whether feeling like a witness is the same as being one. And whether being a witness is the same as caring. And whether caring without consequence is empathy. Or just a crowd. But these are just my observations.